Good morning.
Morning.
Feels a little different to come up here and not do the meditation. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for being here. My topic today is about higher consciousness, and I will share with you some of my experiences being on the road to path to higher consciousness. I will begin by reading a verse from the Bible in the Old Testament. Psalm 82, verse 6 says, quote, "I have said, you are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High," unquote. And then in another verse from the New Testament, John 10:34 says, when Jesus was being stoned for blasphemy for claiming to be Son of God, and Jesus answered to them, isn't it not written in your law, referring to Elohim, I have said you are gods. If he called them gods, to whom the word God came, and the scripture cannot be broken. Now I'm going to read the definition of higher consciousness according to the studies of spirituality. What is higher consciousness? Higher consciousness is the consciousness of a higher self, the Most High. You can call it higher power, omnipresence, God, infinite intelligence, or any term you may wish to call that represents the highest good. Higher consciousness is ever-increasing awareness of your spiritual essence, the meaning of life, and of underlying the spiritual nature in all things. It is part of the human that is capable of transcending the conscious mind with its thoughts about past, present, and future, to enter the infinite, unlimited part of your being. In elevating your awareness beyond your normal thought process, you can experience your true nature and potential with unimaginable constructive peace, profound knowledge. With higher consciousness, you live in a wonder and delight as you create a better world. I'm going to share now my experience with the path to higher consciousness. As I was thinking about this subject, my thoughts went back to the time when I was a student of higher consciousness. It was part of the core curriculum that I had to complete. And I remember when the instructor started explaining about higher consciousness, and she said, imagine yourself, you are in the center of the universe. You are aware of everything. You can see everything. And yet you're just standing there and becoming the witness for everything. Without talking, without interfering, you're just observing. That is your higher self, she said. And I remember a few of my classmates looked at each other and with an expression, what is she talking about? The subject was so foreign to me at that time. Then she went on and saying, to simplify it even further for you, she said, imagine yourself, you are in a glass elevator in a building, and when you are on the ground level, you just know that level. You have the awareness of that level. And when you push the button and you go to the second level, now you have another awareness of a new level where You can see that, and you can also are aware of the ground level. And as you go to the third, fourth, and fifth, and now you have gained different levels of different awareness. By the time you reach to the top of the building, now not only you are aware of those lower levels, because you can see it with a higher perspective, you become aware of the surrounding of the building. You can see the streets, you can see the signs, you can see the town, you can see the city. And the higher you stand and your view is higher, the more you can see. And you are just by yourself. You are totally, you feel disconnected from the physical earth. And yet you are in it. You can see everything. You witness everything. This is your higher self, she said. Okay, it made a little sense to me. I just, understood a little. And then I got into the Eastern philosophy, and I studied the chakras and the Kundalini energy and how it happens, what it happens, the connection of the chakras with our levels of consciousness. Then I was able to sort of put the pieces of the puzzle together. The chakras are the energy centers that are within our spiritual body that are not visible to the physical eye. And the Kundalini energy is the energy, life force energy, when it rises from our base chakra higher. That's how actually the consciousness starts shifting higher. Majority of the people function from these three first chakras. The first one is the root chakra, and the consciousness of that chakra is just dominated with the physical, material survival. And it's usually associated with fear and stress, anxiety, working hard to make sure we are able to provide for our physical needs, and sometimes causing physical conditions or health conditions. When the consciousness shifts higher to the next level, which is the sacral, this is the consciousness that is dominated by our emotions and feelings. Usually people that are functioning from that center are constantly reminded of their experiences that are connected to their emotions, where they experience pain, hurt, and so forth. So they are constantly reminded of those emotions, and not knowing what to do, they just embrace it, and these emotions keep on playing like a broken record. When the consciousness gets shifted to the solar plexus, this is the consciousness of those who have gained power. They love to control. They're driven by their ego. They're usually business people or successful. They are achievers, goal-oriented. They pretty much accomplish what they want because they have overcome their lower levels of consciousness, and they have found that strength that keeps them going. And by the time that energy, the Kundalini energy, reaches to the heart chakra, this is where things started really, really changing. The heart chakra is dominated by unconditional love, and those who experience that unconditional love, they are constantly living that love with joy and acceptance, without discriminating or judging people. And then when the consciousness shifts to the throat chakra, this is where the consciousness of people that are able to express themselves, to be able to have the courage to express their truth. And they are usually aware of their verbal expressions because of their heart chakra is active, and they are aware of the unconditional love. Therefore, they are kind to and cautious with what they say. And then when the consciousness reaches to the third eye chakra, This is the consciousness of those who are aware of the spiritual realms. They are able to communicate with spiritual beings. They can see the light. Angels bring forth messages. Usually healers, clairvoyants, and mediums function from this level up. And when the consciousness reaches the crown chakra, that's where the consciousness finds inner peace. And they have sorted out all the thoughts, the negative thoughts, the fear, the anger, the resentment. They have embraced love, and they pretty much live through their crown chakra, where they experience peace all the time. And it is through the crown chakra that we connect to our higher self, which is the infinite state of ourself. It is, it's always there. It is fixed, firm, and this is what is called the consciousness reaching enlightenment. Now, reaching enlightenment is different, and practicing enlightenment is something else altogether. As Steve says, we are spiritual, and yet sometimes we don't know how to apply that spirituality. Though the consciousness reaches enlightenment, we are still in this physical reality. And the drama will continue. The only difference it will be is if you want to be part of that drama or you don't want to be. The choice will be yours. You will have gained enough knowledge, enough wisdom to know where to be, to say what to do or not to say. And if you have to say something, say it, and then don't feel bad when you're rejected. It's just, that's them. This is who you are. Say your thing, and then just way back where you used to be, higher consciousness. Like I said, it is different being enlightened than actually practicing that enlightenment, living that enlightenment on a daily basis. When it comes to unconditional love, Jesus demonstrated that unconditional love, and I was brought up on those principles, embracing unconditional love, learning unconditional love, maybe teaching unconditional love. However, at that time I didn't really know what exactly unconditional love is until I experienced it myself. When my heart chakra opened up, and I could feel this intense love energy that I cannot explain how it happened. Though I had the knowledge, when the Kundalini rises, but it's unimaginable. It is so strong and powerful that just demolishes all the walls of separation and judging and discriminating. And it was truly then when I was able to feel that love, not only when I went to church. I felt that love when I walked into a temple, an ashram, or even a mosque. It didn't make any difference to me because that love was with me and I would feel it everywhere. So this is what real unconditional love is. When you feel it, it's easier to talk about it. And then next, we hear people talking about peace. Inner peace, and how good it feels to be at peace, and experiencing it. Enlightened masters have experienced that inner peace. Again, I have read a lot of books, I have gone to a lot of workshops, I had even met with peace activists, but I just couldn't really understand what was their motive, what was their drive, behind their peacefulness. When I used to talk to them, it's like, oh my gosh, they're not out of this planet, they're from somewhere else. And I used to admire that because I had a very hectic schedule. I was running 2 businesses, I had family, I had kids, and I would yearn to feel that, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and I used to do, meditate this and that momentarily, but those people were constantly in that state of consciousness. Again, the only way I was able to understand is when I experienced it. There is a big difference between seeing and feeling. And just to read quickly a paragraph that I wrote about how I achieved inner peace in my own book. I wasn't able to talk about it or even write about it until I experienced that inner peace. And this is what I say, how I achieved inner peace. When I reflect back on my successful years and look at my present life, guess which life I would prefer? Would I choose my old life where I own 2 businesses and 2 houses, where I lived lavishly and would spend unnecessarily, where I worked hard and broke my back trying to generate enough income to support my children, myself, and the pets, where I was in a constant state of worry, where I used to pay 4 separate electric bills, 2 business rent, 2 house payment, and everything that is involved in living large? Or would I choose my present life now, where I don't own anything, I don't even have a penny saved, I walk instead of driving, and I hardly even ride in a car? Of course I'm going to choose my present life. I find walking peaceful and beneficial to my body. I do not have to worry about the stacks of bills to pay at the end of the month. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my daughter, and I live a very simple life. All my life I had lived prosperously and learned to be aggressive and successful. However, I was never taught to exist and live peacefully. Inner peace is a state of consciousness that one must feel within. No matter how hard I try to explain or preach about inner peace, you will not understand it until you experience it. During my course of spiritual studies, like I said, I had read about peace, been to many workshops, listened to lectures about peace. I've even met some peace activists. I was intrigued by their peacefulness, and I was not able to understand their true drive about peace and what it meant to live peaceful life until I experienced it myself. As the Indian enlightened master Paramahansa Yogananda said, living without peace is like a fish in the ocean dying of thirst. So finding inner peace was one of the most important accomplishments that I was able to achieve. Now, many people turn onto the road of higher consciousness when they reach a personal state of deep yearning. They have been ejected from routine satisfaction as well as from the community of thoughts in their own mind. They have the urge to find love that lasts and satisfies. They yearn to know the how and why of life. They want to find a place where they will fit in somewhere. This pretty much describes me. As a child, I had a very abundant life, and as a teenager as well. And when I got married young, and I had a good providing husband. I had good children, and all my material needs were pretty much met abundantly. And yet I had, there was a void in my heart that I could not fill it. I just didn't know what it was. And there was a yearning. I knew there was something, and yet I wasn't sure what that was. And until one day when I saw the movie E.T., I don't know if you've seen it, that day when I watched that movie, something was triggered in me. I didn't just watch that movie as a movie, and something was shaken in me where that allowed me to open up and read and look and see what's out there. And that's how some of my whys and hows were answered and put me on the path to spirituality. On the day you turn the direction of your life towards higher consciousness, you will begin the greatest adventure of your life. The motive and the quest of your life are both changed. You no longer are driven by the motive for personal gratification, but for the lasting fulfillment and personal transformation. Your adventure in higher consciousness will test you, as well as thrill you and satisfy you. When I was at the beginning of my search, and someone handed me the book by, the white book by Ramtha, if you're familiar with it. As I started reading the book, though the information was the opposite what I was brought up with, it was talking about higher consciousness, enlightenment, our purpose, reincarnation. And the more I read the book, the more happy I felt. To me, it came the truth. I recognized the truth in it. And though it was satisfying and fulfilling, and yet my doubt would kick in. How about this whole thing if it's just fantasy? And, the mind starts coming in and interfering, and I would stray for a little time, and then I just couldn't stay there for too long. I came back to this and read the book more, and this is how eventually I got over the doubt, and I recognized, no, this is my truth that it resonates with me. So being on the path, it requires courage and faith. You need courage more than you think you need, and I think I am thankful for that I was born with that courage. I had no fear in me, and that what actually helped me to continue my path on spirituality. And like I said, the faith also sometimes becomes the only thing, especially when you're surrounded with people, your family, that they don't understand what you're going through or how you are transforming. And sometimes you feel you are alone, and it's discouraging. But that faith will always bring you back to your own truth. Now, since we are, as the verse said, we are all children of Most High, sons of Most High. That means we all have higher self. The only difference is some are aware and some are not. And you may ask that, how can I establish contact with my higher self? It is doable. I've done it, and I'm sure a lot of people have done it too. It comes from your commitment, how bad you want to get in touch with your higher self. The higher self is the source of all knowing. It knows about you, all your thoughts. What is it that you want, yet you need? And yet it cannot interfere with you unless you start communicating and asking. Ask and you shall receive. That's your higher self will give you whatever you want. You just have to be aware of it. And you can start that communication by first believing that you have a higher self, and have expectation that you will contact your higher self. And next, find that solitude. Solitude doesn't mean alone. It means to be in that centered space where you are alone, there is no interruption, and you will give a chance for your inner voice to make itself heard. Next is meditation. What got me this far, most of anything else, is meditation. It is in my meditation that my third eye was activated, and I was able to see the spiritual realms. I was able to see my guides, that they helped me greatly. Able to bring messages if I needed to help someone. So make that time and train your mind to be quiet. Discipline is what it counts. The same time, the same place. And there are different ways. Breathing meditation, visualization meditation, and you will be surprised what will come with that. You can also journal what you're experiencing as you are on the path to higher consciousness. As you start interacting with your higher self, new thoughts will start coming to you, new ideas, new ways of living, new things of doing, moving or rearranging. Just be aware by journaling these thoughts, and then at that time you may not feel it, but you can always go back and check and see what is it about. And dreams is another way that the higher consciousness communicates with us. Dreaming is not just having a fantasy, oh, I saw this dream. Because we're busy during the day and we don't have that quiet time, the higher consciousness tends to communicate with us through our dreams. I use that a lot before going to bed. If I have a question, I ask my higher self, what is the outcome of this? And boom, it's been shown in my dreams. And when you wake up in the morning, write it down immediately, because we tend to forget those answers. And there is a lot more you can do to establish that contact, but patience is the main thing most of all. Be patient. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. If it doesn't happen the first time, the second time, the third time, just be consistent and do it, and it will happen. If I did it, you can all do it. So in conclusion, after experiencing the levels of higher consciousness, you become able to live in continuously for days while you function in your home and career. Actually, your life will become much easier with that infinite awareness and understanding, and you're working. You will not get distracted if someone tells you something or if it interferes with your thoughts. You just keep doing what you're doing without being interrupted. Then with further practice and development, you become permanently awakened and live uninterrupted higher consciousness. This is where I am at. This is what mystics mean, enlightenment, not only visiting those higher levels of awareness, but living them. There is a very short story I would like to share with you in closing. Two candidates are being presented to a very enlightened master wanting to enter the schools of mystery of higher consciousness. And when their day comes and they are standing in front of the master looks at them and says, it seems that you have potentials. You've traveled this far away and you've waited 3 days for your turn. This shows that you do have a potential to be admitted in the school. However, there is a test you have to make. Are you ready to take the test? And yes, says the first candidate. Yes, please, says the second candidate. Okay, he says, each one of you, you're going to take a chicken with you, and when you are alone, make sure no one sees you. You're going to roast the chicken and then come back tomorrow with your dead chicken. These two candidates, they look at each other and what a weird test. They never expected this kind of a test. But they are eager to enter the school. They say, okay, master, they agree. So each one bundles the chicken and they leave. The first candidate, on his way home, he wanders into the woods and he finds a shade in the tree, and on the spot he just dispatches the chicken head. And the other candidate, he walks again into the other side of the wood, and he finds a shade of tree, and as he approaches the chicken to kill it, he pulls his hand back. He feels like there is presence. There are people watching him, though there wasn't anyone there. Okay, I'll try again, he says, maybe when it's dark, to make sure no one sees me. He waits until it's dark, and when it was pitch dark, he takes his chicken and he goes into his closet, where he knows for sure there is nobody there. He said, now here I can do it. He approaches the chicken, I gotta finish it to do it, and then he stops. He sees like there are eyes watching him. He said, what is this? I have to do this. The time is passing and the master is waiting for me. And he says, he thinks, he says, maybe I should go out of town and far away from the city, so make sure no one sees me at this time. He carries his chicken and he goes to away from the town to the country to an oatmeal shack. And he says, okay, this looks really good. I have to do this and finish it. And he approaches again the chicken to twist its head. He drops, he starts crying. I cannot do this. I cannot do. I know I failed, but I cannot do this. So very disappointed at himself, he carries the chicken and he goes back to the master. The other candidate, he handed his dead chicken bravely, and when it comes to the second candidate, he goes, sorry, master, I know I failed. I know I can't enter the school, but I just couldn't do what you asked me to do. I tried 3 times. I tried in the forest when I was by myself, and yet I felt there was presence there. I felt someone was watching me. I did it in my closet. I couldn't do it. They were eyes just staring at me, though I knew there wasn't anyone. The 3rd time again in the out of the country, and yet I just couldn't do it. There, I felt presence, and he's getting ready to leave. That's when the master smiles, and he said, you actually passed your test. And this candidate is shocked. He looks at him. He said, you passed your test because you were aware of your higher self. Those eyes that were watching you, that presence that you felt, that was your higher self. And because you were aware of your higher self, you will be a good candidate to enter my school. I welcome you. And then he looks at the other candidate and he says, you weren't aware of your higher self. Therefore, you need to go now and come back, and when you're ready, we can try it again. So I leave you with this, and love you all, and God bless you. Thank you for listening.